some road and set my soul on fire. Thinking back before I left, the passions I desire. Can you help me anymore?
Well, hello out there. Hope you're having a nice day. Here we are in the Reverend Gary Davis living room for another episode of Roads and Roads podcast.
I was just listening to the song and you shut it off.
I know, I hate doing that, Jorma, because I love that song. Yeah. It's such great theme music for this program, you know? Well, anyhow, here we are in April, and we have today, we're going to do part 2 of After Bathing at Baxter's, the great Jefferson Airplane record from 1967 that we started to dissect last month. But we didn't make it through a whole lot of it because we also had a lot of questions.
There's a lot of stuff going on in that record.
Stuff going on. Yeah. But anyhow, we're going to get to it today. But once again, at the beginning of the podcast today, we're going to address a few questions that came up and fire them over to the captain and get some great answers from him as always. Getting right down to the bottom of the truth here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow,
or at least the truth as I remember it.
Yes, and that's a key thing, isn't it? Jorma, this is a good question.
Uh-oh.
What was college life like back in 1959 when you started college, and especially at Antioch in particular?
So, because my dad was in the Foreign Service, we traveled around a lot, and I wanted to spend my senior year with my pals from the hood at Woodrow Wilson back there in D.C. It's not called Woodrow Wilson anymore, but anyway. So Antioch College was sort of like was an outlier school in those days. For example, I got accepted to 2 schools, the Georgetown Foreign Service School, probably because of my dad being in the Foreign Service, and Antioch College. And at Antioch College, you could entertain women in your dorms. It's not a big deal today, you know. The best part of more than half a century has elapsed since then, but it was a big deal back then. So,
I bet.
So that was a heavy consideration. It was probably superseded some of the academic ones. And the other one thing was we used to joke that Antioch College had like more counselors than it did teachers. It was a fun place to be back then.
I wonder if that's because the student population needed that.
It was an interesting school, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, that's very cool. Yeah, I bet it was for 1959 because I started college in 1973 at Ohio State.
Kids.
And at that time, the dorm I was in was an all-male dorm.
Yeah.
And then the one next door was an all-female dorm.
Yeah, well, these were all-male dorms and all-female dorms, but the denizens of said dorms could entertain members of the opposite sex or the same sex if they so wanted.
Okay. Well, that's liberal.
Yeah, it wasn't. Liberal doesn't begin to describe the cultural madness that we take for granted today that was a big deal back then.
How was your studies? Did that factor in at all?
So,
was it like a liberal studies as well?
How do you mean?
Like in the politics or?
Oh, gosh. You know, that's a good question. I didn't really take these classes very seriously back then, so it's a tough question to answer. But yeah, and Antioch was that work-study thing too. I mean, generally speaking, it all worked out okay for me.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah. That's good. All right, Jorma, let's go.
And I learned to play the guitar there, so that means a lot.
Let's go to another interesting question here. The questionnaire is asking about the Vital Parts record, Barbecue King, asking how did the band come together for that? How long was it together? And your recollections about the record, recording process, anything like that.
Yeah, so David Kahn produced that record. Great producer. Thanks, David. Awesome job, as with everything you did. David did Pearl Harbor and the Explosions and a lot of those new age kind of things.
Yep.
Great producer. Anyway, so it was Hot Tuna was hiatusing, or whatever you want to call it at that point. I'd been playing with Denny DeGorio that had been in a punk band with Bob Steeler called The Offs. And Denny and I played together. We actually did a European tour together.
As a duo, Jorma?
As a duo, yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, we did Italy, which is always, as you know, which is always a blast.
Sure.
But But yeah, so when we got around to doing the record, we needed some sidemen. So David got John, the Stench brothers, John and Hillary Stench, John being the drummer and Hillary being the bass player, who played on some of the songs, and Denny played on some of the songs, and they were out of Pearl Harbor and the Explosions.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I didn't have a band going on. My mind was open to the possibilities to run it up the flagpole and see who saluted it, and that's how that happened.
How long would you say it lasted?
Oh, that band. I'm trying to think. A couple months. I mean, that was just a blip on the radar.
Did you tour in support of that record with those guys?
Not in the. We did some gigs, but not in the way that you and I consider touring and supporting today.
Okay. This is really going to pull back your memory. This is an interesting
Every question is pulling back my memory, John.
This guy knows, because of your great memory, he could ask you this. What was the name of the studio around the corner from the Family Dog on Balboa Street?
Oh, wow. I have no idea.
Okay.
Zilch. That's a good question.
Yeah.
We
will have to have our research team look into it, and we'll get back to
Google.
you on that. Yep. All right, Jorma.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Now this here is a really good question, and that was very, very cool. This question came in from a fellow named Jeff Magnum, and it was kind of cool because when underneath where he signed his name, and he written to tell us that he enjoyed the COVID concerts and broadcast, and he'd been digging the roads and roads, but he had put under there that he was the original bass player from the Dead Boys.
Wow.
And the Dead Boys were like the first wave of, the American punk bands.
Yeah, we're going back to the
1975.
Yeah.
And they were out of Cleveland, Ohio, but they were a big, big deal. I do remember that from being in the record business. Those first couple records were gigantic.
That's cool stuff.
Yeah, they're kind of like a Sex Pistols of America.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's how cool that he's listened to our program, and he's asked a very great question. He wanted to talk to you if you could speak on your input in films, and particularly mentioned A Serious Man, which had a lot of Jefferson Airplane songs in it.
Right.
And also the Midnight Mile, which was something he thought maybe you and Jack had been involved in.
It's a Brad Silberling movie, yeah.
And how did this all come about?
So with stuff like that, usually, like for example, we have a management company today that handles getting our music into movies and making deals for them. And I guess Brad reached out to us, Brad Silberling. It was the
Is he director?
Behind that Moonlight Mile. And actually, Brad came to the ranch once. I don't know if you remember that. He came to the ranch once also. But yeah, I mean, that was really cool. He reached out to us, and we got a chance to do some recording in L.A. for it.
Did you see the movie as you were playing, or he set it up for you?
No, he set it up for us, and then he pretty much had an idea of what it is that he wanted to do, not specifically in terms of the music, but emotionally, and we tried to accommodate him.
So you created it around his idea?
Yeah.
Ah, very cool, very cool. Another fan has said about...
So just a quick, before we get to that, Mark Isham, or Isham maybe pronounced his name. Yeah. He's one of the horn players with the Sons of Champlin, as I recall. But he's a big dog in the movie music business, and he was the guy that kind of directed our moves on that. I mean, he was the guy that's responsible for the music on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know he did a lot. I think he did a lot.
He's a heavy cat. He's a heavy cat.
Yeah. All right, one of your giant fans, as a lot of them are, it's a great thing. Everybody says, I've been listening to you for 50 years. I've been listening to you for 55 years. I've been a fan of yours since I was 14.
Good Lord.
But anyhow, he talks about seeing the Academy of Music shows in the 70s, and in particular, the November 25th show of 1975.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, good, because I could ask you about that. But he wanted your recollection about whether that show or the Academy of Music. And are you aware that among like tuna heads that date in particular is reveled, and that your shows from that place are really thought. Kind of like, I guess, the Grateful Dead. They had so many live things, but a lot of people look at those Cornell University shows.
Yeah,
like
sure.
Like the giant of
Right.
the great bootlegs and live performances.
Right, right.
And your Academy of Music shows that you were doing there in the mid-'70s period. Your recollections and your awareness on that.
Well, the simple answer is I have no specific awareness of that show, but what I do have awareness of is the fact that those Academy shows were always spectacular and sometimes overlong events. We were filled with youthful exuberance.
Yes, everybody says they seem to end at the early hours, that 3 a.m., 4
Yeah,
a.m.
yeah. Like my ex-wife Margaretta, may she rest in peace, used to say, "You play such long shows because you're afraid to come off stage and face me."
That must
She
be,
actually used to say that. That's not something I made up.
yeah. Well,
More than once, too.
really. Well, I'm sure she was just joking.
We'll never know.
Maybe not,
We'll
huh?
never know.
All right. You know, Jorma, since we were talking about 1967.
There's a message coming in here.
Yes, this is.
Wait, what are you feeling?
Let me see. Okay, it's coming to me, Jorma. Well, our experts behind the scenes
Yes.
have come up with about the question about around the corner from the Family Dog.
Yeah.
That Hyde Street Studios was in that area.
Well, Heights, the
Wally Hyder's.
Wally Hyder on High Street. We record there all the time, but I wouldn't know where the Family. That's not really around the corner for the Family Dog. That
Okay.
was Family Dog was on Market Street, I believe, was it not?
They said Balboa Street.
I don't know. I'd have to get my iPhone.
Also the Balboa recording studio, but that seemed pretty.
I don't know. That's lost in antiquity, John.
Well, you know, maybe one of our listeners out there will know. The
Oh, I'll bet you
answer.
there's somebody out there that's got that one.
Riviera.
Yeah, Rancho de Riviera was another studio listed in that.
No.
neighborhood, and no recollection.
None.
Okay, so we'll put that out there. And once again, I'd just like to say to all those great people out there checking the podcast, if any questions come up to you that you think might be relevant for me to ask Jorma, or it comes out of the program, please feel free to send it to me, John, John, at forpeaceranch.com.
And because I sit with him a lot, he actually receives and looks at all those things.
You know, Jorma, I was unaware of the June 3rd, 1967 American Bandstand performance that the Jefferson Airplane
Oh
did.
boy.
But I looked at that, and of course it's a very, very cool thing. And Dick Clark, the director and MC for the show, he talked about the Jefferson Airplane as the most talked about group in the world.
Yeah.
And mentioned that you were somewhat controversial.
My recollection of this. Now it's really funny because you and I were just talking to Jack a little bit. That would be Mr. Jack Cassidy. Just fielding a couple of questions before we started this podcast, and I noticed his memory is somewhat different from mine, and that's okay. That's exciting.
Yes,
but here's my recollection. A couple things about the Dick Clark show. One was that Dick was obviously repulsed by us on every level,
How could that be?
and the other one was that the dancers on the show were really cute.
Yeah. Well, you know what's really funny is when you watch that video, I guess it's kind of like the same thing like when I was a kid. My dad was a big band guy, and you see these people and you think, wow, the people look so square back then, you know?
Yeah,
But
and
you see the people dance, and the guys all have like suit coats on and ties, and
Yeah.
you just start to see little crops of long hair pushing out, you know? But you look at it, and wow, it looks like a different time, you know?
Yeah, to say the least. And the other thing too is that those shows are lip sync. We're not playing live on those.
I was going to ask you about that, Jorma, because it even seemed like, Paul at the beginning with his guitar, it's like as if he's messing around that. It is lip
Yeah,
sync.
most importantly, though, look at the neck of Jack's bass where he has like a beanbag frog hanging over the bass neck.
You had fun doing that?
I guess. Listen, we were young then, so it was fun doing all that stuff.
Sure. You had American Bandstand.
Yeah,
which
we're
is
going to
like
go
one
to
of the
American
classic,
Bandstands, Dick
shows
Clark,
at that time, all that stuff.
all
being
this
so
kind of
new and
stuff.
Very cool.
Would have been more fun if we could have actually played, but yeah.
Well,
Yeah, Dick wasn't wild about our scene.
I can't understand that for the life of me. We had some great questions. These were a little so much to it that I had to print them out to look at them here. But one fella is talking about what he feels one of the really, how did he put this? Overlooked records in your discography was your second solo record, the Jorma record.
Right.
And what you might be able to say about that, Jorma. And we'll just look at this briefly today, but he, as a last line in here, and it's something we should really think about, he says he really does think this, and I do agree, it's such a great record. And there's a lot of interesting things going on the record that he would suggest that in one of our future podcasts we do a track by track.
That'd be fun.
Exploration of the record.
That'd be fun, sure.
And thank you for that suggestion. Yeah, this is coming in from Frank. Thank you, Frank. And we'll look at that at a future thing. But, just generally that second record. And
so I didn't have a band at that time, and but I had some friends that played and stuff, and I need to look at the track by track myself to really refresh my memory. But so much credit again needs to go to David Kahn, great producer, that took a scab, a bushel of sort of scattered thoughts that I had at the time, and gave me an opportunity to forge them into a record that actually came out.
Mm-hmm. Did it take a long time to do that?
No, because we really didn't have that much money to screw around with stuff. I mean, the long time records, those years were over by that time. Mm-hmm. So the pressure was on, which in some ways is not a bad thing, actually. But
and this was your follow-up to Qua, which was such a masterpiece.
Right.
And of course received that way back then, acoustic.
Right, and of course it's all different people. And the thing about the Qua record is it's really, again, it's another zeitgeist. I talk about that a lot. It's like, we had Betty Cantor, God bless her, in the studio helping set up sound stuff, and it's all these great producers, Mallory Earl, all these people, etc. And just, it's one of those records that really just kind of flowed naturally in a lot of ways. And
was that recorded at Wally Hyatt?
it was, yes. Yeah, it was.
And you guys used that a lot, right?
Yeah, we had I don't know how this actually worked out, and I think the people that do know are probably no longer with us, but we had the Airplane family had lockouts on Wally Hyatt where we could just go in all the time and do stuff. It was a luxury that doesn't happen often these days.
Mm-hmm. Now, I remember earlier when we were talking, you said a lot of times recordings were done down in L.A. because San Francisco just
had nothing then. Yeah.
So was that pretty much the first really great recording studio in San Francisco?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there was stuff in Sausalito later on too, but we were the first band to record at Wally Hyder's, and we stayed there.
Yeah. I think I remember David Crosby's, if I can only remember my name, was at
Yeah, when he was doing that, I mean, everybody that we're talking about, Santana was in the building, us, Cross, his
people,
wacky family of friends, and the Airplane family, blah, blah.
All right. Well, we're going to pick up where we left off last podcast and jump into After Bathing at Baxter's.
Whoa.
It was great when we got to talk to Jack a little bit, as you said, because of getting the different comments on things here. And one thing we'll mention is when we mentioned to you last month that we were talking about After Bathing at Baxter's being some reference to LSD, that Baxter's part.
Right.
And you said, I can't say I remember that at all being the case.
I think the word I said was bullshit.
I know, I was just trying to avoid that. Yeah, I think we did call it.
But I've thought about it since then, and I think it's important. It's important to note here, you and I are having this conversation here in scenic Southeast Ohio. And one of the most important reasons that we're doing that is that I'm still alive.
Right.
A lot of the people that would be so interesting to talk to, Kent or not being the least of these, are no longer with us. And you and I were just talking to Jack on the phone a little bit before we started this podcast, and we all remember stuff a little bit differently. And I think that it's also important, from my point of view, to remember that in terms of a visible set of, not that the Airplane really had a set of band values or any of that kind of stuff, but I think to cut to the chase, Cantor was just a self-appointed spokesperson for the band for so much of the stuff that we did, and I don't know about Jack, but I was more than happy to let him
Talk.
do the heavy lifting
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, because that's just what I was interested in at the time. Now, of course, you're trying to get a word in edgewise, you can't shut me up.
Well, you know, it's really funny how over time, how things are said, because when we talked to Jack, that's how it had come up, because after your bullshit, most of the bullshit, we had a couple people send notes that said, you know, Paul had said this in interviews, that Baxter's was code word among the band for acid.
Yeah,
and someone even sent an audio clip of him in an interview saying the exact same thing. And Jorma was sitting listening to it. He authenticated Paul's voice.
You know, one man's opinion. I mean, I guess, and I was doing an interview the other day, and we talked about this a little bit. You know, in the historical tell, many people consider Jefferson Airplane to be a quote-unquote psychedelic band, whatever that actually means. And look, you know, as I've said many times, I came of age in the 60s, but, you know, I can count on one hand the times that I voluntarily tripped. It just wasn't my thing.
I know,
you know,
we got the snake hands.
Your hands are so big. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because when we talked to Jack, that's how you posed the question to Jack, if he knew this was a code word. And as Jack told us, he said, well, you know, back at that time, being the age it was in and the man, you know, you had to worry about that. We did have code words for certain things. You know?
Yeah,
so
because...
you had that. But he also agreed with you. He said, I just never knew it was a code word for LSD,
No.
you know.
You know, and like I said, it wasn't a drug that was high on my list of priorities back then, so why would I even have a code word for it?
And then
Which is not to say that it didn't exist.
Right. And that was interesting when you brought up to Jack about the title of the album coming from that poem.
Yeah, Gary Blackman, yeah.
What was the Owls?
Yeah, so Bill Thompson was our manager at the time. It's an interesting thing the way we did business back in those days. He originally was a copy boy at the Chronicle. And there's ways to research this, but just to cut to the chase, he wound up being the manager of Jefferson Airplane, which is a big band back in those days, et cetera, et cetera. And he had this buddy named Gary Blackman, and they just did utterly non sequitur weird shit. And the aegis under which they did this was a name they come up with, which was the Walking Owls. What did it mean? Both of them are dead, so now we'll never know.
Never know. Boy, we'll have to make up a good story.
But there is some Walking Owl stuff on the sleeve of After Bathing at Baxter's.
Okay, yeah, the crazy stuff.
Yeah, crazy.
But even when you mentioned that to Jack, he said he'd almost kind of like forgot it until you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean,
where that came from.
I think what Jack was talking about is that, like with the airplane stuff, is that it was so traumatic on some levels to come to some sort of a group consensus to do like album covers and stuff like this, that I can, you know, again, Jack is more than happy to speak for himself, but it's just like, come on, call it what you want, let's drive on and play some more music.
Yeah, it seemed that some of you weren't as interested in that stuff as others were.
Correct. Well put, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Well put.
Putting it all together.
Yeah.
Well, it's always great to get Jack's comment in
Always.
there. And how nice that we can still call Jack up. You know, you and Jack, survivors, man. Still here doing it, and that's the great thing.
So
about
far,
that.
so good.
Now, Bill Thompson remained your manager for quite a long time, right?
Yeah.
And then did he continue with the Starship?
He continued with the Starship.
He had a long life with the airplane Starship.
Yeah, he
family.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're jumping back, as I promised we would do here eventually.
Whoa.
But it is great that we get these questions and people listen to
What
the show and all that kind of stuff. We're going to jump to the third track on that great record, After Bathing at Baxter's. And let me bring it in a little bit to set the mood.
Let's
here
have a
on
listen.
What we're going to be talking to here. another song I hate to turn off. But
Yeah,
so
great
here we
song.
got the third song, "A Young Girl's Sunday Blues," the only Marty Balin song I think Paul co-wrote with him on that.
Yeah.
On this record, where Marty had such a presence on the earlier records in the songwriting, on this record, even though he's very, very much in the mix and there, as far as the writing credits, a lot of it went to Paul on this record. And in some cases, as we talked in our last episode, some people felt that Marty being missing was a deficiency in the record, that they didn't have more Marty stuff in there. But as it is, "Young Girl Sunday Blues," great song.
Right.
Great guitar work there in the beginning.
Thank you, thank you.
And you know, it's so evident in there how well Paul and Marty's voices work together, and Grace in there as well. Three great lead vocalists, but boy, when you hear Marty and Paul, their harmonic spot is just perfect in there.
Yeah, and the vocal harmonies that Paul, for the most part, came up with are, for lack of a better word, somewhat atypical for pop music. It's cool stuff. So yeah, the song was written about this gal that we sort of became friends with. Her first name was Sally. I'm not gonna.
No last.
We don't need to use her last name anyway. She was just one of the gals from the neighborhood, and she was ultimately married to the Israeli ambassador as an adult later on down the line. Sally, if you're out there, hope you're still rocking, sister. But and it's one of these things where, like, you know, she was just a friend, and just people hung out. You know, like I think we talked about this a little bit about some guy that came up to the show at the Fur Peach Ranch that
He was upset about the song.
was upset about the potential for somebody being a pedophile, but that absolutely wasn't the case. We were just friends with her family and stuff like that, and
Sometimes
they let her
people
hang out
make
with the
more
band.
things than they really are.
Absolutely,
They
you
look
know.
too deeply into this stuff, and that's too bad, because that's a heavy thing to say. Too.
Yeah, it is a heavy thing to say. It's
Without
more than a
really
heavy
knowing
thing
the
to say.
background information.
Right, it's also bullshit. But so Marty wrote a great song, and that little choppy sort of rhythm thing, I was just discovering stuff like that back then.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
That was so cool. And that's really the thing about this record. There's a lot of discovery. You guys are on the spot.
Totally.
New things. Technology is there, new things, all kinds of stuff, amps, pedals, all that stuff.
All
that's
that
what we're
shit,
talking
yeah.
about. All right, let's look at the next song on this record, the fourth track, which is really a Jefferson Airplane classic.
What might this one
we're
be?
talking about Martha.
Ooh.
And Jorma, you have some just great guitar tones that you bring into the song. Longer solos.
Right.
That is evident throughout this record. Instead of like we're on Serialistic Pillow, your solos were a little more, concise and placed. These are some solos that allowed you improvisation and time to build up your solos. That just a direction this album took, a little freedom
Yeah, I
for
mean,
you?
it's not like I was like champing at the bit to do these solos, 'cause I never did any of that stuff before. So this is really a chance for me, as a still, I mean, not that I'm not still learning, but as a young, still fairly new to the game, a lead guitar player, to have great songs to come up with lead parts to.
Talking about the vocal part, when you were talking about Paul and Marty, and also here with your guitar parts, how much did that take to put together? I mean, as far as, did Paul have to be in the studio with Marty and you broke down, you were going to sing the fifth?
Paul, Grace, and Marty, they'd rehearse all that stuff.
They would do that like
Before
separately?
we got, no, the three of them would get together and rehearse all that stuff. Paul played 12 string. Excuse me. And yeah. And they'd come into the studio with all those harmony parts worked out.
Already be ready on
Absolutely,
that.
yeah.
Boy, their vocals, all three of them, just hit that harmony thing.
Agreed.
I think that was one of such a strong part about the
Agreed.
Jefferson Airplane sound. Your guitar, the solo, the structure of them and stuff. Did you just go off and play the long solos, or was it something they kind of said, we want more of that, Jorma?
Well, I mean, those are overdubs. So they'd already given me the space that they wanted for guitar solos.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just filled that space.
Right, and the other thing too is about guitar solos, and I remember, back when we were on those rare occasions when we do electric guitar classes at the good old Fur Peach Ranch back down there in Pomeroy, Ohio, in Darwin, Ohio, and we talk about this stuff. And I'd say, this is going to be funny coming from a guy like me that cut his teeth in the age of long solos. But, you know, some of these long solos that people do, it's like, yeah, you're a great player, but if you're not saying something, no matter how good you say it, you're still saying nothing. So,
Right.
yeah, I know I'm a bitter old man because I don't get to do that myself. But yeah, I mean, sometimes with the long solos, you know, it's just like, okay, you said what you need to say. Let's get back to the song or whatever.
No. That's what the thing about this record is. It's a whole different process here. The length of the songs, as we talked about,
Sure.
all that kind of stuff. So it really does stand out as far as the freedom
Right.
of the guitar playing.
Right, and like I said, all this stuff is new also. So, you know, I mean, you know, not that any of us that have been in the game for a long time play the same thing all the time. I remember something I read years ago about the interview. I think it was Ray Davies of the Kings or something like that, were talking about his guitar solo, and You Really Got Me, or one of those songs, I forget.
Dave Davies' brother, Ray's brother.
Ray's brother, yeah, right. And he said, yeah, it was the only solo I knew. You know, but
a good
but
solo.
it's an iconic solo.
Right.
You know, but with the band like the Airplane, where we had, you know, pretty interesting chord changes and Paul liked different rhythm signatures and stuff. I mean, it was really a productive challenge to come up with something to go with it.
Now, you're with these guitar solos, was it also a challenge for you to recreate them in live concerts, or could you have a little bit of leeway there?
So, I mean, obviously, the simple thing is that I rarely played the same thing twice.
I've
but-
noticed that about you.
But yeah, and I apologize for that. when
Oh,
we
I
played
love it.
together.
I'll tell you, it's endearing.
But yeah, so the Airplane, you know when we played live in that heyday of the Airplane's live performances and stuff like that, a lot of the stuff happened that had to do with the chemistry of Spencer Dryden, Jack Cassidy, and myself. And you know, Grace, Marty, and Paul always gave us plenty of leeway to do that, and it's one of the things that I think that made the band strong as a performing act back in those days. Now, if you listen to Bless His Pointed Little Head, which is a live record,
But one of the greatest live records,
Right.
I must say.
I mean, we were at the
Top
peak of our game back there, and there's a lot of interesting stuff. And to be honest with you, it's been a little bit since I've listened to it, but the last time I listened to it, I thought, that's a really good live record.
10.
You
Yeah,
know?
it's a great live record.
Anyway, yeah.
And it really captures your guys' sound. That's a nice thing,
Right.
too. You know, whereas some of the live records, they either tailor them down or strip them down. They let you guys go wild.
They did, yeah.
Which is very
Which is what we were good at the time. So
Yeah. That would be a great album to revisit and see if there were extra tracks for that. That needs one of those deluxe
that's a good
full
question.
concert.
That's a good
'cause
question.
I know for that record, not all the songs got put on that record. You just couldn't.
No,
put it on
because
a
I
small-
forget how many days we recorded, but it was a bunch. So there's probably a bunch of stuff in the can, as we pros say.
Yeah. You think that'd be RCA Studios would have that stuff somewhere?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Unless they burned down with that fire a couple years ago.
Ooh, I don't even want to think
Who
about
knows?
that.
That was a tragedy.
Yeah, that would be a tragedy. Next song up on the record was this song called Wild Tyme. And I like how it was spelled Tyme, Tyme. This is,
Whoa.
again, one of Grace's songs. It's a classic Jefferson Airplane sound on it. The vocals, guitar, strong bass. When we were talking to Jack, I had to let him know that, just as I told you,
Yeah.
in getting ready for our podcast on this record, it's a record I just had been out of my orbit. But when I got back in and listened to it, I thought, this is an incredible record. In much the same way we had talked about Sgt. Pepper, like one of those records that just like, wow, what was going on here? This is,
Yeah.
I mean, song to song, there's not a weak song on the record. And even the strange, the Zappa-ish, the second song there, you know, how cool that comes into
Right.
Sunday Blues, you know, Young Girls Sunday Blues. So, you know, just so much stuff going on there. The writing on Grace's part seems much more intense, evolved at this point too, as far as the subject matter and stuff like that. And I got back to what I deviated when talking with Jack. I told Jack it's nice that they cranked up the bass for this record, and it wasn't just a background thing because he does just some incredible work on this record. And was that all just what's going on as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Now, I don't remember, you can refresh my memory on this. Grace played keyboards on this song?
Piano.
Yeah, piano. That's what I thought. So Grace was, you know, she always like trivialized her abilities as a keyboard player, but that's nonsense because she was really great. And, you know, Eric Satie was one of her inspirations, and so she had lots of really, really interesting, you know, approaches to harmonics and this and that and whatnot. So
he was the Genepi, he had that big Swede.
Yeah.
You remember it? Not Genepi, I'm thinking of the drink, but he was a heavy-duty classical composer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a very modernistic kind of way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, but you know, Grace brought so much music to the, you know, to our collective table, and I remember when we did the so-called reunion album in '89, and they got I forget who
Tim
played.
Gorman.
Nah, it wasn't just Tim. It was Page. The guy Page was on it. I'd have to look at the credits. But anyway, Grace didn't want to play keyboards. Well, he went, why not?
Yeah.
You know, and anyway.
Well, you know, really, the piano playing is so great on this
Agreed.
record that
Totally agreed.
I actually just started thinking maybe it was a session person.
No, we didn't use session people.
No,
back
look
then,
down
yeah.
this album. There's really all the instrumentation is Jefferson Airplane members, and
except in the horn parts.
right. And I had to look at the horn part because Spencer Dryden is credited with drums and percussion and horn arrangement.
But we don't know who the horn players were.
No, which in this day and age, of course, anybody that was on the record, they would be crediting and have the courtesy of CBS Records or all that stuff. But the horn is in there, but we're not sure who played that. But
We're not,
know
which is too bad.
Spencer, arranged the horn part, which was pretty cool.
Was.
So we're going to move on to the next track on this.
And
great
what is this
record.
track?
And this record, this song here, it might have some big meaning to you. It's called The Last Wall of the Castle.
Ooh.
And what a great title for a song, but the reason why it is so significant is this is Jorma Kaukonen's first composition for the Jefferson Airplane, lyrics, music all together. How was that? I mean, you did the embryonic journey in Surrealistic Pillow, I guess, with they're talking about
Right.
lyrics, singing, not just guitar instrumental.
Who wrote the words to Embryonic Journey?
You know, I'm trying to remember who that guy was. It was very...
Yeah, I got a song with words on the record, right?
Yeah. How'd you put that together?
Oh, I was waiting for the record to play. How do I put it together? You know, just the way I always do that kind of stuff. I had a basic idea, and those little rhythm chops that the song is kind of built around. That was something new to me at the time, and I remember just picking up the guitar. That would have been written with an electric guitar, not an acoustic guitar, and with a flat pick also, not finger picks, and just playing and you know, I'm not bad at manipulating words, and things just started popping up in my head, and
Yes.
I hung in there until I got a song.
Now, with this being Jorma's first lyrical composition,
Well,
for Jefferson Airplane.
yes, I believe it is. If I'm wrong, somebody will surely let us know.
I hope so. And when we discussed your earlier records that have been recently reissued, I mean, not reissued, but produced by Culture Factory Record. I'm talking about Reno Road and also The Wall on
Right,
Michigan
right.
Avenue. There is a song or two on there where it's your songs and you do the vocal and stuff.
Yeah.
The thing about this is you have Jefferson Airplane members harmonizing with you, which is usually you hear Jorma. I guess you had David Crosby on Highway Song helping out.
Right.
But usually when you hear Jorma, it's Jorma's solo voice.
Yeah.
And it was really neat to hear you with Paul and Marty and Grace.
Yeah, so exciting. I mean, getting a chance to have great singers like that singing harmony for me, and yeah, indeed.
All right. We're going to put on another song here that I'm going to bring up on the old...
Think about Grace's harmony on Third Week in the Chelsea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really a super part of the band is how many I mean, because Jorma, I think of you as a great singer as well. But you know, you guys have Marty.
Well, I
Paul.
cut school the week they were teaching harmony, so I'm not the one that get to do harmony parts, but they sure made me sound good on those
You
tracks.
had a lot of strong vocals in that band for sure.
Yeah, man, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're going to look at another piece on the next song up on the Baxter's record here is a song called Rejoice. And once again, I love how the Rejoice is Rejoyce.
And why is that?
I think that Miss Slick was a big fan of James Joyce.
I believe you're right about
right?
that.
Yeah, so very, 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 very cool with that. But let's listen to a little bit of this song here. And
Yeah, let's hear that.
I'll bring this up.
Refresh my memory.
Yep. Here's a good flashback for you.
Yeah.
Chemical chains. You've shot the warning. I'm alive. Wake me warm. Let me see you moving everything over. Smiling in my room, you know, you'll be inside of my mind soon. There are so many of you. White shirt and tie, white shirt and tie, white shirt and tie. Wedding ring, wedding ring. Mulligan stew for bloom. The only Jew in the room. Saxon sick on the holy dregs, and they're constant getting throw up on his leg. Molly's from
Hate
the
to do it.
lazy. Boiling scotch amazing.
We could listen to that whole song really good because it's so damn cool.
That's our girl. Grace, if you ever watched this, you were really the shit. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'll second that. Well, Jorma, once again, as you're talking about, what great piano work, you know, and how cool to start the song with that piano there. But it's very evident on this whole record.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I shouldn't be surprised by it, but she really beautiful keyboard piano work. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And this song here has so many things going on. And
Right.
you talk about a serious jump up evolution in the sound, not only the lyrics, because it's so much there. We're talking a lot deep stuff. This isn't AM radio commercially put together songs. I mean,
No.
there's so much there lyrical wise if you listen to the lyrics and stuff. But even aside from the lyrics, there's so many different sounds there. The changing in the rhythms, the texture of the song.
Yeah, I was about to comment on that too. Different rhythm signatures.
Yeah,
Good
which
work,
is-
sister.
Which
Good work.
is so cool. I mean, that's why I left that little part where they,
Yeah.
the triplet piano stuff coming in. But there's so much there, Jorma. The epic writing on Grace's part. It's a anti-war subject is you know, in the surface of this song for sure.
Right.
Of course, she has said that James Joyce Ulysses was a influence on this. But really, a cavalcade of sounds. We heard those horn parts in there, and it was very interesting as far as that goes, because looking at the horn, that's where we were talking about
Right,
arranged by Spencer
right.
Dryden, and but he's not playing horn. But that's so cool, the echo of the horn there. And,
Agreed.
And for rock music in 1967, I'm thinking that this is kind of like groundbreaking.
At some levels,
Real different.
Yeah, we kind of take that for granted today because, you know, everything progresses as it should.
Right.
But in that time for a quote unquote rock and roll band, that was
Yeah.
some pretty intense shit.
Yeah, and very, very cool the horn part that was arranged in there, and also in this song, I believe that's where she uses that recorder as well.
Yeah.
and uses it very well. Now, if Jorma, correct me, but that recorder is somewhere close by, isn't it?
I believe the recorder's is Vanessa's River of Time boutique. on, what street is River of Tyme on?
Washington.
Right, and right between the police station, the sheriff's department, and the great Salam restaurant.
Boy, a good place to be.
Oh, not to mention the Donkey Coffee Shop too, of
yeah,
course.
that's a hot block, you know.
Yeah, get a cup of coffee and stop by River of Tyme.
But aside from all the cool stuff they have, a lot of the For Peace Reigns Museum went over there as well. So you have all kinds of great artwork.
Correct.
And the poster work.
Yep.
And some of the artifacts out of the Jeff Snare playing Jorma history there and stuff still to be seen. But the recording part that Grace does is just so cool. And
I'm not sure if your microphone will pick this up, but when we were starting the gallery, I asked all kinds of people in the airplane, Bob Weir, everybody, if they had items that they wanted to contribute. And she sent me the flute, and it was covered with some mysterious coating. We didn't want to ask her what it was, but it was similar to a wax, and I restored it myself with a little plastic scraper from Pampered Chef, by the way.
Oh.
And I did it in a bathroom, of steaming water. I turned the shower on, and I restored the whole flute.
thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
And
and
how cool that we have it around. Now, Jorma, what is the difference when you, because on the record they call it a recorder, but it sounds like a flute.
no, it's a. I mean, do we have one up here? Yeah, there's one right there.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, for some reason, my father played the recorder. In fact, that's my dad's recorder right
This is
there.
your
Hang
dad's-
on to that. Yeah, that's an alto.
Wow.
This is a soprano. And I actually have, I don't know if it's, oh, there it is in that little box there. I have a beautiful wooden one. In any case, so I taught myself to read music with this thing.
Wow.
Recorded music, not piano music. And I just love the sound of it. And yeah, this one was my dad's. And
Your dad play that for you ever?
I mean, my dad never did shit for me. He just did stuff for himself. Oh, this still kind
This
of feels.
podcast brings out the truth.
This still feels like it has. No, I'm just joking. Dad was great. Still feels like it has wax on it. Grace, what did you?
That's Jeff Snare playing
I don't know.
grunge.
I don't want to know.
You don't want to know.
I don't want to know. Oh no, but in any case, yeah. So, you know, Grace was one of these people. Yeah, look, it's got a wax coating of some sort on it.
Maybe it preserves it or something.
Who knows?
Who knows?
It could have been.
Could have been
An alien incursion. In any case, you know, Grace was one of these people that just picked up instruments and the music that was in there, and there was a lot of it came out, and yeah.
Yeah, the recorder is so cool on that.
I'm going to set the recorders
like I
over
say,
here.
This song in particular, this Rejoice song, had so many things between the horn, the recorder.
Yeah.
Now, Jorma, you're listed on this record, lead guitar and the vocal for the song we had just talked about and stuff, but it said sitar. And it sounds like there's a sitar sound. Do you have any recollection of doing anything like that in the studio?
I remember, you know, there was this period of time where, you know, it's like, whoa, man, it's like I really want to like channel. Do I want to channel Ravi Shankar? Is it the sitar? Is it the Veena? I don't know. You know, like being a guitar player wasn't good enough. You had to do something else. I don't know. But in any case, so
you owned a sitar at one point?
Somebody gave me one. I think it was my friend Maj. Maj, if you're out there, I hope you enjoy this broadcast. Maj lives in England now, one of my buddies from Pakistan. Yeah, he might have given me the sitar. But in any case, you know, you go boing, and the sympathetic string goes boing.
I love that sound.
It's like, you know, the more pot you smoke, the better it sounds.
Ooh, okay. I'll try
But I
it.
never learned. I mean, listen, that's one of these lifetime instruments. Have I owned sitars? I have. Do I still own one? Mercifully for the people around me, no.
But speaking of sitar, I remember one time talking to you about you seeing Ravi Shankar at Monterey, and that was a real eye-opener that for people to see.
I got a chance to see him, I can't remember when, concerts other times too. And that's certainly, I mean, Ravi Shankar was certainly a gateway drug to the Indian subcontinent music. Although I think that listening to it, and I wish I could remember the artist, but I don't. Ravi played the sitar, but there's an instrument called the veena, which is kind of like a slide guitar kind of thing. That, as a guitar player, it was easier for me to relate to.
Love that sound. Well, very deep track there. Very deep track.
Very deep.
The next track we go to is one of the Paul songs, "Watch Her Ride," and this is classic, just classic Jefferson Airplane, right?
Yeah.
And again, Jack's bass, he does that great riding bass on that, and again,
Turn him loose. Turn him
Turn
loose.
Him Loose. It seems like the Airplane, really turned it loose for this record in all aspects. The
Right.
bass being much more prominent, much more free, your improvised solos, the subject matter of songs. There's so much stuff going on.
And a drummer like Spencer Dryden, who was a very sophisticated guy in a lot of ways, and not a quote unquote pure rock drummer, whatever that means. His ability for him and Jack to improv and for me to join and stuff like that. Miss you, brother. Miss you.
All right. Well, we're going to go over this because we're again running out of time, and I want to get to the rest of the songs on this Baxter's record here. But to me, that "Watch Her Ride" is like what became that classic Cantner sound of the Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
One of his songs there that it's just like, and all the elements are there of all the great instrumentation that the Jefferson Airplane was. The next song we talk about is called "Spare Change," and this is a real interesting song for a lot of reasons. First off, this isn't one of those 3-minute songs. This song clocks in at 9 minutes and 12 seconds, and also another variation from the usual Jefferson Airplane playbook is there's no vocals.
Right. So we were. That's a jam that was recorded at the big house that we rented. We were doing Baxter's, and it's just we're just me and Jack and Spencer just jamming.
Yeah, they said it came from a live jam, and when I read that, at first I thought it was maybe out of a Fillmore concert or something, but
no,
it's jamming at the big house.
It's at the house, and we had recorders around, and we just recorded everything we did. Somewhere there's probably a lot of cool stuff, hopefully, living in a can somewhere. But Jack and again, this is early on in our. Or just be more specific, in my electric guitar playing career, and just the exuberance of being able to play with guys like Jack and Spencer. We just like took off, and
that's such a fantastic track. It just takes.
We just
off.
love to do that stuff.
Of course, it is very interesting when you look at old reviews and stuff. As I was telling you, like one of the teen magazines, Hullabaloo at the time or something, they look at something like this, going, What is this? In fact, some guys said one of the worst songs on the record is, and I'm thinking it's one of my favorites, because it's not just some sloppy jam, man. It's some great jamming. In some ways, it reminds me of the thing Before You Were Them, the type thing we were doing with Jack.
Which we were good at.
Yeah.
So if you think about, since you mentioned the teen thing, because we were, I guess, for 20 seconds, like a top 40 band or whatever you wanted to call it. We were more than that, but which is not to be dismissive of top 40 bands, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we could get together and create stuff on the fly, just play and sort of chase wherever it went without sounding miserably redundant. I mean, that like I say, that jam is shortened down, and I could be wrong about that. I don't think there's any internal splicing. I think that we followed. When you listen to it, that's how we played it.
Yeah. Well, a couple interesting things about that, and I wonder if you got any blowback from now we had talked earlier in the last episode about Al Schmidt being such a great producer because he was a hands off the band kind of guy, let them do their thing. But
right.
In 1967, if a band came to their label and said, we got this over 9-minute instrumental jam we're going to throw on this record, I just would wonder what they'd say. And also, obviously, as you mentioned before in our podcast, Jefferson Airplane was a free-flowing, no direction band, members all doing their own thing, but that the band was happy to put a 9-minute track in there without more vocals or a Marty song or something like that. It's very, very cool. It's
So
very,
I
very
guess
cool.
one of the reasons that happened is coming off the huge success of Surrealistic Pillow, that we had a lot of power arguing or bargaining chips, whatever you want to call it, with the record at the time. And now, God bless him, you know, he was a company producer, but he was on our side. He was one of us, you know. And he went to bat for us, and we got a chance to do what we wanted to do.
You remember anything about this jam, Jorma? Was it like did you sit with the group and say, yeah, this is really cool. This part here is really cool. How did Marty feel about this long jam?
You know
and
something,
everything
that's a
like
good
that?
question to answer. I don't know how Marty felt about it. Probably okay, because we never really fought about, to my recollection, well, I need to get a song on the record. It's like the joke about the drummer. When are you going to start recording my songs, you know?
Right.
And the answer is, we recorded Spencer's songs, you know? I mean, everybody pretty much got a shot at a shot at whatever you want to call it, you know, to get something on the record. And because we had a lot of different inputs, it made for interesting records.
Real
Now, I'm
interesting
sure that RCA, you know, especially in that era, being a hit-oriented company, because that's how it was back in those days, would have loved if we'd had an album full of hits.
Right.
And depending on how you look at it, maybe we did have an album full of hits, but they weren't 3-minute hits or 2-minute.
They were
15.
underground hits.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, for a 48-minute record to have a 9-minute instrumental song on it, that's not just like your 2-minute and 50-second embryonic
Right.
journey or something.
Right.
That's dedicating almost a quarter of the record.
Right, and I guess,
to,
it's been a while since I listened to it, but I remember the last time I actually did listen to it, I thought, because a lot of times you get together and you jam, and the people involved in said jam are experimenting with things, and, and maybe if something's cool, so you do it a bunch of times until you move on to something else. I mean, you can't script something like that, but a lot of those ideas were fresh for all of us at the time. And the good news, as I said earlier, was the tape was rolling.
Yeah. How did that title come about, by the way? Is there anything you remember about that?
I don't.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes. I take that back. So, outside the quote-unquote concert dance halls in those days, the Fillmore, the Avalon, there's always somebody out there going, hey man, got any spare change?
They were doing it back then too?
That's where it was invented. and obviously...
And he said, that'd be a good name for a song.
Yeah, we're lucky we didn't call the album Spare Change.
Yeah. Well, very cool.
Hey,
we're getting close to the end of the record here.
Oh.
We had another Grace song called Two Heads. And again, listening to this song of Grace's, boy, the lyrics, everything is getting heavy and deep here.
One of the things before we get to, don't lose your thought train, because when you said two heads, that reminds me of that King Pleasure Annie Ross thing, because two heads are better than one. But anyway, to get back to...
Yeah. Well, this song here has a real Middle Eastern feel to it. And
right.
Your guitar playing especially, Jorma, definitely, I would say, inspired by that kind of sound.
Absolutely.
Is this because of your time spent like in Pakistan and in that area? And
I mean, I'd like to say,
exposure
yeah.
to that kind of music.
I just loved world music. And there was a label, you're a record guy, remember None Such Records?
Oh, yeah, great label.
Yeah, great label, budget, affordable stuff
Yep.
that had weird but really incredibly cool shit from all over the world.
International music label.
And I'll
really.
bet you we probably have some down in my record collection
Probably
downstairs
so.
in this very building.
Did
And,
the Bulgarian singers come from that?
or the Bulgarian folk music, where Crosby is reported to have gotten his ideas for the harmonies for
Right. CSN.
those guys.
Yep.
Yeah, anyway, so just listening to a lot of world music and stuff, what goes in comes out somewhere. I mean, I think I'm going to sound like a Vina player smoking hashish under the sun
That's
you know,
exactly what I was feeling.
I know you were. I could tell.
Sinewy is kind of what I think of your lines in there. you
Yeah,
know?
sinewy. That's very
Yeah.
good.
Very, very cool stuff going on. And that actually was one of the songs on this record that did get FM radio airplay.
Yeah, can you believe that?
Yeah. Well, like I say, there's so many great songs. Every single one is a great song.
But since you mentioned that, remember what a cool era it was for FM radio back in those days.
Yeah, I was a kid during that time, and music being fresh and stuff. But I always loved that David Crosby album. That If I Can Only Remember My Name, and they had that movie, that song Cowboy Movie. I believe you're one of the guitar players.
Yeah,
on that.
war movie, I think it was.
No, that's the airplane war movie. This Cowboy. Yeah.
John, I defer to your memory.
Yeah, but anyhow, the fact that you could hear a long song like that on the radio was just like so cool. A long jam and the different stuff that was going on. FM radio was such really an eye opener to music and stuff.
Yeah.
We're at the last song on this record, and I know we're running out of time too, but there's just so much here. This is the "Won't You Try" combined with
Saturday Afternoon.
And
Right.
let me play a little beginning of that.
Oh, let's have a listen.
Yeah, bring you into the mood here.
Won't you try? Won't you try? Won't you try? Won't you try? Find a way to meet someone. Find a way to see. Find a way to meet someone. And the sunshine will set you free. Won't you try? With love before we're gone. Won't you try? Won't you try?
Jorma, I wonder if you would try. No, how does it feel for you? Because
I wanted to listen to the whole thing.
I know. We'll have a record. We'll have a listening session on the vinyl. But for you, as I mentioned to you, this record it was so cool that we delved into it and bring back remembering what a great record it is. And for you too, because you said it wasn't something, and even Jack mentioned he had listened to it recently and was really knocked out by how good it was.
Right.
Does this bring back some great memories, like when you hear little snippets?
Yeah, and it's funny stuff too. I mean, listen, it was such a creative and learning period, I think, in all of our lives then. But as a geeky guitar player, one of the things that hit me, like you hear that guitar sound that in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's the maestro fuzz tone, where I smack the shit out of the old 345 and hit the pedal so it overdrives with the fuzz tone, and then pull it off at the end of that chord.
Wow. You're creating at this point, boy. You're really creating sounds, really things that people don't take for granted anymore. You really are. You're really at the beginning of all that stuff there.
Yeah, and I must point out that Paul and Grace and Marty giving me the great songs to do that kind of stuff with.
Sure. And when you hear that song there, and even as I'd mentioned earlier that you don't have a lot of Marty's songwriting credits on this record, but he is so strong on this record, and hearing his vocal there just
totally.
Marty was one of the greatest
yeah.
rock and roll vocalists I think of all time, really.
He's a good one.
And so that song there, you remember that song has a lot of for the Jefferson Airplane. It was a song you guys decided to include in Woodstock.
Right.
And I noticed on live records and even in the reunion, 1989 reunion, that was one of the songs you guys did play regularly. Was this a song that was usually a part of the live shows?
Yeah, it was.
And so when you did Woodstock, that was one of the songs you definitely wanted to bring to the
It's sort of like
party.
a quasi-epic number also.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it's got everything in there, all the classic elements of the Jefferson Airplane. It's mentioned that it's Paul's nod to the Bee-In, which would have been happening at that same Summer of Love,
True.
the Human Being and
Right.
stuff. The idea of acid, incense, and balloons,
Balloons.
People dancing everywhere. Boy, it paints a nice picture. It really does.
Yeah, it does. And it's like, well, I think we talked about this before, and I thought about it when they had a bunch of stuff in Golden Gate Park last summer where they were doing shows, and I charged a whole bunch of money for people to go. Those Saturday afternoons in Golden Gate Park back then, free for everybody.
Yeah.
And
that really catches that. And, I know we're running out of time, and I think we're going to, before we end, I want to jump to another part of this song, because it was kind of cool how they were paired together. So you have Won't You Try, and then that Saturday Afternoon.
Right.
That obviously a Paul decision.
Absolutely,
putting
absolutely.
it together
Yeah.
like
That's the way he wrote this.
Let me knock it a little. Oh, I got to knock it ahead about a few minutes into the song here.
What the?
Let me put that back up there. Up. Thank you. Okay. Check this out.
Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon. When your head is feeling fine, you can ride inside our car. I will give you caps of blue and silver sunlight for your hair. And all that soon will be is what you need to see, my love. Won't you try? Won't you try? I do care that you do see. Keep it going. I know, around about and everywhere, sunshine instead of snow. Times can change, that's what I say is true.
Again, we could have listened to that whole song too.
Easily.
How are you creating that guitar sound on that lead there?
That's the good old Gibson Maestro fuzz tone.
Okay.
And the obviously fuzz tone sound.
And your partner Jack riding it right with you.
So, and also, again, for the geeks out there, I think we talked about this too. That's a Gibson ES345 stereo, and so that's the neck or the bass pickup, whatever, with all the tone rolled off, and that's how it sounds to the fuzz sound when you do that. Yeah.
You created a great sound there. Well, what a super. Now that song, Won't You Try, Saturday Afternoon, was that like a closer sometimes for the airplane?
You know something, we're
move it all around.
Lost in antiquity, and so I honestly can't say.
Okay.
The set list guys, they know all that stuff, but that was certainly one of our epic numbers.
Epic song for sure, and an epic album, and maybe an overlooked record. But really, you're one of the greatest records. I felt funny having to call you after the last episode and just saying, you did a brilliant record here, man. I had such maximum respect for you because, what a gem. And if anybody out there hasn't heard this record in a little while, do yourself a favor and light some incense and let the balloons up and check it out.
But don't wait. You don't need to wait for Saturday afternoon.
No.
You can do it anytime.
Do it anytime. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. Jorma, Bo, yeah.
Boom.
Walking down that lonesome road, set my soul on fire.
It's right in front of. You.
I think I disconnected.
No, you.
Did I? Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, you screwed everything up.
Don't worry, we can unscrew it.
Real life, folks.
This is a live. This is a live. I hope I didn't break it. Well, hold on.
So,
Put it on.
well, while we've got Andy here,
Let me reach and get. You'll reach and get it for
I'll
me?
get it for you.
Okay.
Sorry. Let me get you.
Oh, I hate to see people.
you screwed everything all up, John. We're
I
doing,
might have to stand up again.
we were doing so well
I
until
know.
until right now,
I
and
should have tried to reach for
Edit,
that.
edit.
you've always been a reaching for the stars kind of guy, and
Reaching. Andy, could you grab that while we're here?
We'll have the blooper at the end.
Okay.
okay,
Which
That's
one?
it right there.
This one.
Yep, there it is. That's
There's
it.
like a whole bunch of them.
So let's,
Is
why
this
don't you
a-
give me that little one right there while you're there also.
There's a
So,
story that goes with that one. Hold
yeah,
on.
there's a story that goes with both of these. So,
Wait, till-
um,
Wait.
so when I was a kid,
wait,
hang on to
wait,
this.
wait. Okay.